And action. Hello, hello, and welcome back. This is the Ranting Rose, a space, a place for conversation. Today, I am thinking a lot about, based on my own experiences today, about awareness. How important it is to have awareness. I think that no matter who we all are, no matter where politically we might stand, I think we all can agree that this is a pretty difficult world to thrive in today. There are things coming from every single angle which are prepared to infiltrate our life to the smallest and largest extent to keep us away from living the best life possible. And I think about awareness specifically in a journey that I've been taking as of late to try to realizing that maybe my life has gone a bit off track, to realize the need to kind of clean the life up again, which really, really takes a lot of awareness because I think a lot of the ways in which we destroy ourselves are sometimes not so evident. They are, I think, in the smaller details of our life that become so routine, like what we choose to ingest, both by our diet, by our vices, by the things we choose to view and entertain, and the realities that we are maybe forced to perceive. And so I think that the more one chooses, because you really have to choose this, and I think you have to choose it each and every day, the more one chooses to clean up their life, they begin to have more of a probability of becoming more aware. And as they become more aware, they then become more prepared to take further decisions that can continue to cause their life energy to rise, meaning that they can reverberate higher and think more clearly, and I think act more rightly, and so forth. And so a big part of awareness comes from reflecting, I think, on our own lives, and really, I think, starting with the many vices that we use to tackle the obstacles in our life, which I expressed a lot in my previous video. If you haven't watched it, feel free. There's only a few videos as of late, so go to the one before this to get further insight into what I would consider obstacles. But we have to look in our lives and we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to be really courageous in doing so because it's really easy to dance around the truth as to what is a vice for us and what is not a vice for us. Meaning, I think a lot of us think that the vices are the things that have been like approved vices or collectively understood vices, when really vices are anything that we can reflect upon that hold us back from being our highest selves, and that which I believe is someone truly and honestly with all of their lives trying to serve the Lord and our Father Most High, God Himself. And vices, when we think vices, we think of, like I said, the most populated ideas of what vices could possibly be. This could be, eating just horribly. This could be taking drugs. This could be ingesting alcohol regularly. This could be gambling. This could be, for some, pornography. I mean, etc., etc. There are so many vices which have been collectively defined by us all and understood to be vices. But there are also minute details, which I think can be just as strong vices as well. What is the thing that makes you lean towards these well indicated vices? And how can you solve that problem so that you feel less inclined to move towards these vices? And that's a bit of an individual delving into self that I think can only happen within an environment of silence, of quiet. So I think awareness, or even the possibility to have awareness, comes from setting aside time in our very busy lives to slow down to a point of silence, to be still with God and self, to, in some, this very inherent way, understand the root by asking ourselves the questions of why it is exactly we do the things we do. And asking God and finding within self, within mind, the ideas that one could maybe consider as to what they could do to grow in that regard. And so, for me personally, obviously, it's ridding myself of any consumption of things that are just bad for me, and I don't think that it's as important to go into the details of what that means to me as much as it is to really talk about one of the highlighted features that I've chosen to take on in that regard, which is diet, and hunger and thirst. And what do those things mean? What does diet mean? What does it mean to be hungry? What does it mean to be thirsty? What does it mean to quench one's thirst? What does it mean to, fill the stomach to a level where one is satisfied? All of those things. And I think in my own in my own inquiry towards this, I find that the body doesn't need much of what I put into it. B, I could do a much better job of finding through the things I choose to put in my body in order that I can prioritize placing in my body that which I know will produce good results for it. And simply what I mean is like whole foods, like actual real foods that are also either just whole, raw in and of themselves, or prepared at home. Things like fruits, things like vegetables, things like soups, or I don't know, rice and lentils. And I think we get very neurotic about, well, are you talking about this rice, that rice? Are you talking about organic? Or, I mean, there's so many rabbit holes. These are, in my opinion, these are distractions that take away from the energy of true awareness, which is like we know what's going on. Like, if you could have white rice or you could have brown rice, what's most natural? Which would you choose? Huh? It's not hard. You know what I mean? If you could have a cheeseburger or not a cheeseburger, you know what I mean? It's like being really serious about ingesting foods that energetically are going to do purpose for your body. That takes definitely a reduction of sugar tremendously, like being conscious about how much sugar is in the products that we eat, how much processing and weird ingredients are in the foods that we get. Like, so many times we might totally go to a diet and start buying products that, if you just take a careful read of the ingredients, there's so much there that is not understood, that it doesn't seem like a reasonable premise that this is actually like a healthy and whole thing for your body to consume. And the world we live in, especially in the United States, is filled with these things. And so for me, I definitely have tried to focus as of late on eating, like, as little as possible, and making sure that which I consume is very simple, very whole, and very nourishing to the body. And for me personally, this is another thing. What is good for me, I cannot claim will be good for you. But I know, because I've reflected upon it for a long enough time, to understand just at an energetic level what works for me best and what doesn't. And there may be times later down the line where I can readjust these things and take on more. But from a base level of trying to eradicate the body of the extreme amount that it had and go towards a place that can start fresh, it needs to be as base level as possible, which is really a strong limitation on meats, a strong limitation on sugars, an absolute no tolerance on fast food, on sodas, on things that at the end of the day, with any careful examination, just appear outrageous. And and high levels of sodium, sweeteners that aren't real, added sugars. I mean, you could go on, and I think we live in a world today that it's very easy to, if you truly want to kind of like research this stuff and figure this out. And hydrating the body a lot, right? Drinking a lot of water so that you can, the body I think has a natural ability to heal, and we just don't really put in a position to do that. But taking in a lot of water and taking in a lot of rest to allow your body the circumstances to do just that, to start to heal the body, to start to coach the body into this new paradigm that you'd like to explore. And I think anybody truly committing to this would also find that if you're in tune with yourself, you can see yourself changing quite quickly, quite quickly. So in that thought, you can understand why there's so much of a mass around us to keep us off the course of health. Because if anyone were to really go down the path of health, it's actually quite possible. You know, we would have to sacrifice this feeling like food is entertainment and that we deserve entertainment from going through the many obstacles of our life. Again, we discussed that in a previous video. But when it comes down to it, nourishing the body with that which it needs, and in a world, by the way, where we'll never get it perfect, I don't think there's any sort of product in a scheme of things that are obviously totally against us that can be perfect, other than moving to the rural countryside and growing your own food, which, by the way, is not within the resources of many people. Would take a great deal to learn how that would even be possible. We're so far away from what we once were in that regard. Maybe others aren't, but most of us are. And so rather than getting lost on the details of how far we are from perfection, being very serious about still striving for the best that's provided to us. And if you do that, I think you'd find that you become more awake, you become more alert, you become more calm, you become more grounded, more focused. And with enough of an intro, what brings me to this today is, as I mentioned, I've provided a lot of attention to this detail. And I have been so thankful to God to feel like I'm starting to live again. Wow. And today, by happenstance, part of my routine has been, to try to limit the food I eat right before bed, get up, have something nourishing like water to start to flush the body out, have a bit of coffee to kind of wean me off from the more extreme versions of caffeine I once needed to start my day, and to start nourishing the body with things that are soft and maybe even liquid like kombucha or like fruits, and to eat smaller portions and give myself several hours in between eatings, and getting to work, eat at work, but do more salad bar features, things like quinoa, things like chickpeas, things like hummus, things that are readily available at my workplace at the salad bar, that I know can fuel the body, and still having those carbohydrates to kind of soak into my stomach before I'm going to be running around in the work that I do, and that sort of thing. Coming back home and having prepared something beforehand that is, like a spinach coconut curry sort of thing, that I know if I am ingesting something before I go to bed, that it's the healthiest possible. And this is a phase one, so I'm comfortable with that. and also outside of that, realizing that I also need to ground myself in um, different experiences as well with where I put my attention to. So rather than scrolling on my phone all day, or even just like dragging myself through textbooks and forcing myself through heavy bouts of study with really no emotion or passion, to pick up a book, to pray, to be just still and calm and quiet, and do things slowly that I know will get me to a place that I want to be. And, awareness comes, I think, in moments that are great and moments that are not so great. Oftentimes, we think we have to have awareness in times which are not so great so that we can defend ourselves from the things that are not so great. But I think an honest reflection of our lives would also showcase to us that there's always something around that's not so great. So it's very important to always be aware, because things, if you aren't, can catch you by surprise. And today I was reading a little bit of Dante's Inferno and trying to trying to piece together the reading skill, but also the comprehension skill, the critical thought process required to actually understand a book in general, but especially this book that seems to talk in a fashion that is very like old English. I was telling my wife a lot of the ways in which the sentences are structured are kind of backwards, where the subject seems to be at the end, and whatever the other part of a sentence, whatever that's called, seems to be at the front. And many Latin-based languages like Spanish and Italian, et cetera, kind of have this structure. But as an English speaker, I have to get over a hurdle to really understand it. So that's what I mean. A lot of quiet reading and time for reflection and attempts at comprehension are needed to even understand the book. And so I'm reading the book, and I love the book. I think it's very insightful, and it's very entertaining. And I'm excited to, after reading, kind of break it down. And I am even theorizing that maybe I should try to translate the book as best I can in what I would appreciate to be the sort of English that it was written in, to easily understand it. But I'm willing to take on that task, and I'm very happy that no one did it for me, so that the book can stay in its most original form. So put that to the side. I'm reading, and then of course with any expenditure of energy, you also need to take in energy. So usually after kombucha in the morning, water, or coffee, especially with the coffee in your body on an empty stomach, you inevitably get to a point where your body kind of tells you, hey, I need something in here. That coffee is really starting to kind of burn through you. It feels very intense. So that's great, because you needed the energy to kind of get started, but you also need something for that to kind of soak into, so that you don't end up hurting yourself. This is like where the shakes come in and that sort of thing. Shout out to my mom if you're watching this. I know she deals with a lot of that midday because she drinks a lot of coffee, but that's where usually people will get the bread, right? And soak it up. And where I am in the base level of the process, I don't really want to get into bread, because I know that it's very filling for the body, and I feel like I'm dealing with a lot of inflammation. And for me personally, I feel that ingesting bread kind of helps along the inflammation more than it kind of suppresses the inflammation. And so I don't want to go down that road. I want something lighter, something that's fibrous and to some extent whole, and makes me feel still light enough to continue to produce, to rest mildly, and then get back to reading, etc., etc. So I look through the fridge, and I find Greek yogurt in the fridge, and I'm like, great idea, right? And again, I think dairy at one point in time will be something that maybe I'd like to not rid the body of, but limit as well. But you can't do everything at once. So this is where I'm starting. And so I see the Greek yogurt. I've been using Greek yogurt since the beginning of this transition, and a little pineapple as well. Think it's really good for the body, and so we have some frozen pineapple in the freezer, and I put that in the Greek yogurt. And, I also, a little bit about me, when I have this Greek yogurt with pineapple, oftentimes the pineapple is super, super frozen, right? And I don't like to bite into that because it's like, oh, there's like just too much, Some people love that. That's great. But so I let the bowl sit for 30 minutes, let the frozen pineapple melt, juices get into the Greek yogurt, and I'm having fun, right? So, and I'm also trying to work on another thing, eating slower. I mentioned that calm state that I'm striving for and trying to therefore eat slower for my body's ability to already have it processed by chewing more and have more of a likelihood that it can then kind of have the body take from it what it needs and let it process a little more easily. That just at a base level seems to make more sense to me. And yeah, so I'm eating it and I'm eating it and I'm like, wow, this is really sweet and delicious. And I'm thinking in my mind as I'm eating, I'm saying, maybe this is the pineapple making it so sweet. But something in my head, which is so strange, that could be a longer conversation, how aware we are, even when we feel like we're not this aware. There's something in our minds that knows something's up a lot of times. There's like this intuition aspect to it. And I swear in my head, I say, wow, this is a kind of a little sweet. And, I'm hungry, so I'm slowly eating it, and I get to the finish. And just out of curiosity, I look at the Greek yogurt, and I find that it's labeled vanilla. Yeah. And I know where this is going. When I get Greek yogurt, I get plain Greek yogurt because I believe Greek yogurt is really only healthy when it's just plain Greek yogurt. Meaning, as soon as it becomes a flavored Greek yogurt, this is what the United States loves to do in grocery stores. As soon as it becomes flavored by all these artificial flavorings, which make it so unhealthy at the end of the day. It shouldn't be even labeled the same thing. Yeah. But we also know the United States, with how it labels products, obviously, just by like a gander around the grocery store, it doesn't have our best interests in mind. It doesn't at all. At all. It doesn't care about our health. It strongly cares about us purchasing a product, strongly cares about us purchasing that product again. And so there's many quiet subtleties that are involved in many grocery store items that are meant to be lures into our next vice. And maybe the whole time thinking that it's not a vice at all, that it's this new wave of dietary product that we're going to consume. But again, with the right careful research and consideration, you realize it's similar to other things that we now avoid. And so I'm curious because, like I mentioned, I knew for a little while that to always get the plain yogurt and then make it flavored with actual whatever. Get vanilla bean and put it in there. I'm not, because it's going to be like $25, but pineapple or strawberry or whatever. As soon as it's strawberry flavored Greek yogurt, they're not just throwing strawberries in. This is not what we're up against. This is not the world we live in the United States. It's just not. So I look. This is so beautiful to be here and have you witness all of this. So I look and it says, you know what? I'm going to grab it for you. I'm not going to just talk out of my, I'm going to grab it for you. I just did a video of all the peanut butter choices in the grocery store that kind of led me to the same conclusion, but we'll go with it. Many of us buy store brand things, right? Because we've been told, I don't know where the study was who told us this, but I think many of us have the understanding that these are the same products as the name brand. In fact, they are usually the same companies that make them, but in a different warehouse. I don't know. We get this idea that this is the same exact thing as the name brands, and so we might as well save money because since it doesn't have the name brand, the store will sell it to us cheaper because of their power as a store to sell these items anyways, or something like that. But ironically enough, alongside the flavoring of all those name brands comes a lot of the, well, I wouldn't call it healthy things that are involved with a lot of the name brands too. And so I say vanilla, okay, let me explore this further. And so you have all the things that are in yogurt, and then you get to vanilla flavor preparation. What does that mean? Vanilla flavor preparation, it says. It says cane sugar, water, natural flavor, pectin, lemon juice concentrate, locust bean gum. Isn't that interesting? Why do you think you need any of that? And it also says contains bioengineered food ingredients. That's interesting. I didn't even read that before, but that's really interesting. And that's hilarious. And it says no artificial sweeteners or artificial preservatives with other natural flavors, all this sort of stuff. I remember a long time ago I learned what natural flavor was oftentimes, and it's something that's derived from the anal glands of like beavers. Yeah, that's natural flavor they're able to use. Do your own research. Don't listen to me. I'm just a guy. I don't know anything. But that's strange. I don't know why I need beavers' anal glands in anything I consume. But yeah, no, look it up. And so I'm like alarmed by that right out the gate. But then that leads me to go to the next thing, which thank God they're legally obliged to provide to us, right? Who knows, in the future, they might get enough freedom as a corporation over us human beings that they don't have to anymore. But for now, they do. And it says, and I go down to sugars. Wow. It says total sugars 19 grams. Tell me if I'm lying. 19 grams, but more importantly, added sugars is 15 grams of added sugar. That's so interesting. So, I don't know what's better, not having any artificial sweeteners or having 15 grams of cane sugar and 3/4 of a cup of Greek yogurt. Just wild, you know? And then for anybody out there who's like, why are you making such a big deal? Because I had the last not even 2 weeks to try to be very focused and rid myself of a lot of these sort of ingredients. And in one instance of accidentally consuming the Greek yogurt, I implore you to do your own research on the matter. But you should be able to tell in this video, my entire energy has changed. The rate of speed in which I talk, especially in the beginning, the whole this that I had, that I've been surprised in recording these videos, how kind of peaceful I felt, but also presented myself to be authentically. Here, even though I want to do that, I have sugar in my bloodstream. I just walked my wife to work 6 blocks away, and I still have this level of energy. I also feel, although I'm still here, I'm still with you, I feel a little bit less in control. I feel a little bit more erratic. I feel a little bit more, my right leg is. So I don't think that I'm sensitive. I think that we're sensitive. And I think that because human beings are sensitive creatures, and that makes us beautiful, by the way, that we have to be very aware what we place in our bodies, because those things have very real effects on how that body will express itself, how the brain will function, and therefore what we'll be able to deliver to the people around us, those we love and those we, like it or not, have a responsibility to be a light for, especially if we're considering ourselves children of God or people who believe in God or desire to follow Christ. It would just make sense that we should take on that effort to be just that. So today it's a lesson in awareness. It's a lesson in awareness and how aware we have to be. And also I would like to highlight that even though I've made a mistake like this, to not also be not hateful, but not be over upset with myself, such that that energy then leads to making other mistakes. To then instead see it as a lesson. Thanks be to God, have an opportunity walking my wife to work to execute something that allows me to expend that energy, to have the knowledge that I need to drink a lot of water to be able to process this sugar and get to the next place in this journey, and to not get too upset that when everything is armed against me, that potentially from time to time I may accidentally fall into mistakes that are not in my best interest. And within that moment, I have an opportunity of what I do with it. And the best that I've come up with in this moment is, by his natural inclination of my heart, is obviously to share this with you all, because I think that it could be fruitful, but also find a way now to remedy the situation, right? To, like I said, continue consuming water, maybe be a little gentle with myself for the rest of the day, because whatever plans I had before this that were in the orientation of a mindscape, we'll call it, that was very calm, relaxed, and grounded, may now be a little bit more intense. So I will try to fight back against that mistake by claiming back my right to be healthy and process that which is now in the bloodstream, not allow that to take me further down a wrong road, and to try to commit, albeit maybe harder to do so under these circumstances, to the same line, the same direction I wanted to continue before, which is to read something, to be with God, to pray, and to be there for the people around me as best that I can. So that's really interesting. That's my rant for today, is really the need for awareness in our lives, because I think we all want things sincerely, right? We all desire things sincerely for ourselves and for this world and for the future of it. And we just have to realize that in order to have that for ourselves, which will then lead us to the probability of having that for the world, which will then anchor the possibility of having a future world like that we have to be very, very, very aware, especially today, because it is very evident when you go to the store and buy Greek non-fat yogurt, vanilla flavored, even how that starts and ends is purposeful. Greek, we first say Greek yogurt, getting it. We're probably already on sugar, most of us in the grocery store, maybe even a little hungry. Greek yogurt, getting it. Non-fat yogurt, getting it. Vanilla flavored, it's gonna taste good too. This is what we're up against. This is a great way to describe the climate, culture, and direction of the United States. This is what we're up against. So it's important. It's important to be aware, and also not just for yourself. We are all attached to everything around us. So for others, be aware. Yeah. So you can be prepared to be there for them, because we are here to serve. And I don't mean like start a nonprofit and do all this crazy. That's great. Hey, if you do that, that's awesome. But like, you can also just try to be the best human being you possibly can. Try to stay close to God. And a part of doing that is to illuminate others and to share your love with them. You will not be prepared to do those things to the highest level if you are continually hurting yourself. Point blank, period. It's kind of simple in that regard. So, as usual, I would like to close it in prayer. I will not let this sugar halt me from doing that, most certainly. So, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Oh, good God, Heavenly Father, above us all, He who reigns in a seat we cannot even comprehend. We give you thanks for this opportunity to live again. Let's do it together. That is a breath that I have when I know many others who do not have it. So I give you thanks, good God, for the opportunity to breathe again and to be alive within the energy of that, to affect the world around me positively by your good grace. I thank you for that grace and mercy that you provide to me, and I know that it's not something that I get to keep or deserve or hold in a bank somewhere. So I ask that you continually provide it to me because I know that I need it, and I know that I have virtually no answers. So I thank you for the wisdom you do impart to me from time to time. To even share in it for a moment is just beyond my expression. I give you thanks for that. I give you thanks for my wife, of course. It's a love I've prayed for my entire life, and each and every day I just can't believe that I have it. So, yeah, I thank you for that. I thank you for my family, for my friends, for anybody watching this video who may be, so moved to take a part in this experience, this community, this platform, which aims to do something with this. Maybe one could consider a mess. I thank you for, even in my worst days, for being there with me. That's insane. I can't plausibly think of a love like that. I know that I'm surrounded by a society that doesn't even come close to loving me like that, and therefore it's important to give you thanks. I pray for the world, as I always do, and so sincerely, that we can strive to know you better. Not only know you, but to live like we do. No matter the room, no matter the pressure, that we can live like we know you. And we can share, that knowledge with others. And not in a pressure-filled way that we seize you for our own and feel that we know you entirely, because of course that's impossible. But that we share from a loving heart those seeds that you've given to us, and we pass it along to others in the hope that you will help them grow it. Right? So I pray for the world, for those lost, for those who do not know God, to open up a book today and start reading, or open up their mouth and start having a conversation with God and asking Him to be with them more frequently in a way that they can understand, so they can heal and so they can serve Him better. So yeah, I pray for those sick. I pray for those in need, those impoverished, that He might be with them today, and in some small or grand way help them. For those that have passed, that they might find their way through the next realms of existence, find their way in His arms and in His grace while doing so. And yeah, just give you thanks at the end of the day. And I know always it's important that in Christ's name we pray this. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. God bless you all. Be well. I'm excited to see you all again.